Have you ever encountered a phrase, like just a few words, that completely stops you in your tracks?
Oh, absolutely. The kind of phrase that just, it rewrites your whole understanding of reality.
Exactly. A concept so vast that it threatens to rewrite your entire understanding of who and what you are. And, in the sweeping landscape of Eastern philosophy, the Chandogya Upanishad delivers one of the most audacious, paradigm-shifting teachings ever recorded.
It really is. It's the phrase Tvam, which translates to thou art that.
Thou art that. It's a statement entirely dedicated to revealing this mind-bending truth that your individual soul is absolutely fundamentally identical to the infinite reality of the cosmos.
Yeah, the sheer scale of that assertion is just, I mean, the core of your being is indistinguishable from the ultimate fabric of the universe.
Yeah,
It's what makes the Chandogya Upanishad such a monumental text.
it really is. And to help you integrate these immense philosophical teachings into your own life, we invite you to subscribe to the channel, Simplified Awakening.
Right, and as we navigate this text today, drop your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know how this ancient wisdom challenges your modern perspective on reality.
Yeah, please do. So, setting the stage here, this Upanishad is one of the oldest, right?
It is. It's one of the oldest, largest, and honestly most heavily scrutinized of all the principal Upanishads. But to really understand how it delivers this realization of Tat Fenasi, we have to look at where it originates.
Right. The context is so important.
Exactly. It's embedded within the Samaveda.
Right.
And for those of you familiar with ancient Indian texts, the Vedas are divided into different sections.
Right. And the Samaveda is specifically the Veda of melodies, right? Like chants and vibrational resonance.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a textbook of dry logic.
Yeah.
It is a profound exploration of how sound and vibration actually structure reality.
And to interpret a text that operates on both the philosophical and like a vibrational level, we're relying on a very specific analytical lens for this deep dive today.
We're looking at the commentary of the legendary 8th century philosopher Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya. He is essentially the preeminent figure of Advaita Vedanta, right? The philosophical school of non-duality.
He is, yeah. And when Shankaracharya looks at the Chandogya Upanishad, he doesn't just see a collection of disparate myths or ancient stories.
No, he argues that the central undeniable mechanism of this entire text is to relentlessly dismantle the illusion of duality.
Right, that false belief that you are a separate, isolated entity navigating a disconnected world. He insists that the self, the Atman, is not merely connected to the ultimate reality, to Brahman.
But it's just a fragment of it.
No, not at all. It is entirely qualitatively and quantitatively indistinguishable from it.
Which is just a staggering epistemological claim when you really sit with it.
Oh, it's massive. But what's great is that the text doesn't just hand you this conclusion in the form of like a mathematical theorem.
Right. It's not a dry lecture. The format is this vibrant, deeply human tapestry.
Yeah, it utilizes coming-of-age stories, intense father-son dialogue, sweeping allegories. It guides the listener's mind toward this realization through narrative.
It grounds these infinite, totally abstract concepts in the messy reality of human relationships and existential doubt. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
The mission of our deep dive today is to take these massive, ancient realizations, strip away the centuries of historical distance, and find the practical aha moments that you can actually apply to your understanding of existence right now.
I love that. We are going to distill the actual mechanics of non-duality.
Yes. But before we can analyze the dialogues and the specific seepers in the stories, we have to establish the foundational frequency they were all operating on, so to speak.
We do. Because the very first teaching of the Chandogya Upanishad doesn't start with a complex theory of consciousness.
No, it starts with a sound.
Fair.
It introduces the concept of the Ugitha, which in the context of the Samaveda is the sacred syllable Om. And listeners, pay close attention to this first major takeaway, the teaching on Om as the ultimate essence and the universal yes to existence, because this literally sets the stage for everything that follows.
It really does. The Upanishad treats Om as the absolute essence of reality itself, and it proves this by constructing this meticulous, cascading hierarchy of existence.
It's almost like a meditative zoom lens, right?
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah. It pulls the practitioner's awareness from the gross physical world down into the fundamental quantum vibration of the universe.
So take us through that sequence. It begins with the earth, I think.
Right. It states that the essence of all beings is the earth. The earth is the foundational locus of our physical experience.
Right, but it doesn't stop there. It then says the essence of the earth is water, because water is what sustains and shakes the earth.
Exactly. And the essence of water is herbs, or, plant life, which transform that water into biological material.
And then the essence of herbs is man, because the human body is literally built cell by cell from the food it consumes.
Right. Then it gets subtler. The essence of man is speech, because speech is the highest, most organizing faculty of human consciousness.
Wow, okay. And the essence of speech is the arc, which is the structured poetic hymn.
Right. And the essence of the arc is the psalm, the musical, melodic chant.
And then finally, the absolute pinnacle of this whole chain, the essence of the saman, is the ugitha, the syllable om.
Yeah, and Shankaracharya's commentary on this sequence is so vital here. He points out that this isn't just a list. It is an active process of involution.
Involution, meaning like turning inward.
Exactly. It's a psychological technology. The ancient teachers recognized that human awareness is naturally drawn outward, scattered across the endless diversity of the physical world.
Right, we're always focused on the external stuff.
So this hierarchy forces the mind to trace the physical universe backward. You move from the tangible earth to the biological body, to the conceptual realm of speech, to the structured vibration of music.
Until you hit the absolute bedrock of reality, which is this formless, substanceless vibration of Om. It's the underlying hum of existence.
That's exactly it. And the text pushes this even further into the macrocosm. It asserts that the sun itself is continually sounding Om.
Wait, the sun is sounding Om? That's wild.
Yeah, the life-producing evolutionary radiation of the sun is described as a physical manifestation of this primal vibration. The Upanishad calls it the sun of body, mind, and spirit.
So if biological life is a product of solar energy and the sun is a manifestation of Om, then human consciousness is essentially a direct byproduct of this fundamental resonance.
Precisely. And the metaphysical implications deepen even more when the text introduces Om as the couple.
The couple, like a pair.
Right. It states that speech and breath represent a fundamental duality in the human experience. Speech is the conceptual organizing principle, and breath is the vital energetic principle.
Okay, so thought and energy, basically.
Exactly. Together, they form a couple that finds absolute unity in the syllable Om. The text notes that when a couple unites, they fulfill each other's desires.
So Om is the ultimate fulfiller of desires because it represents the resolution of all duality back into singularity.
That's the idea, yeah. Furthermore, Om is defined in the text as the syllable of acquiescence or agreement.
That concept of acquiescence is just fascinating to me. In ancient Vedic culture, saying Om was the equivalent of saying an absolute cosmic yes.
Yes, it is the vibration of total acceptance.
Which is so hard to do, honestly.
Incredibly hard. Because when the mind is in a state of resistance, it creates friction, right? Which we experience as suffering. Om is the phonetic embodiment of aligning completely with the flow of reality.
It's a profound yes to existence in all its forms, which Shankaracharya argues is the absolute prerequisite for spiritual prosperity.
Right.
To bring this into a modern context, I always imagine it like a global telecommunications network.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right? Like you have millions of different conversations, text messages, and video streams flying across the world simultaneously.
All this chaotic data.
Exactly. They're completely diverse in content. But beneath all of that chaotic data, there is a fundamental carrier wave. An invisible, silent electromagnetic frequency that makes the transmission of all those different forms possible. Without the carrier wave, the entire system just collapses into silence.
That is exactly it. Om is the carrier wave of the cosmos. It doesn't have a specific form itself, but it holds the potential for every single form in the universe.
So that analogy perfectly captures the relationship between the unmanifest Brahm and the manifest universe. Om is the carrier wave that supports the illusion of diversity.
Spot on.
But, if Om is this universal frequency, this carrier wave of reality, did the ancient Vedic society actually believe anyone could access it?
Well, that's a catch.
Right, because historical context tells us that Vedic India was intensely stratified. This kind of supreme philosophical knowledge was heavily gatekept.
It was heavily restricted, yeah. The social structures of the time demanded strict adherence to caste and lineage. To even approach a spiritual teacher, a prospective student had to formally declare their gotra.
Their gotra, that's their ancestral lineage, right?
Correct. And this wasn't just a polite formality. It was viewed as a biological and spiritual prerequisite. to ensure the student was actually capable of holding the sheer phonetic and philosophical weight of the Vedic transmission.
Wow. So if you didn't have the right bloodline, you were just out of luck.
Pretty much. But, and this is why this text is so amazing, the Chandogya Upanishad completely subverts this entire social paradigm with the story of Satyakama Jabala.
Oh, I love this story. This narrative feels remarkably radical for its time.
Extremely radical.
So we meet this young boy, Satyakama, and he possesses this burning desire to live as a brahmacharin, which is a devoted spiritual student.
Right.
And he approaches his mother, Jabala, to ask for his lineage so he can present himself to a master.
And Jabala's response basically shatters the social conventions of her era. She is a woman who, in her youth, worked as a servant attending to many different guests.
Right, and she tells her son, with brutal, unflinching honesty, that she does not know who his father is.
Yeah. She possesses no prestigious family name, no gatra to grant him access to the elite circles of spiritual education.
But crucially, she does not instruct him to fabricate a lineage. She doesn't tell him to lie.
No. She tells him, I am Jabala by name, and you are Satyakama. Call yourself Satyakama Jabala. She arms him with nothing but the unvarnished truth.
The psychological courage that took for a kid in that society is immense. He walks into the ashram of the revered sage Herdramata Gautama, completely stripped of any social armor.
Exactly. And when Gautama asks the requisite question about his lineage, Satyakama doesn't waver or attempt to obfuscate his background at all.
He just repeats his mother's scandalous truth word for word. He embraces his lack of status in a room full of societal elites.
And Sage Gautama's reaction is a defining moment in all of Upanishadic literature. He recognizes that while the boy lacks a biological lineage, he possesses a profound spiritual one.
Right, because Gautama declares no one who is not a Brahmana could speak thus.
Yes. And he isn't talking about the social caste of Brahmanas there. He is talking about the internal quality of a true seeker of Brahman.
Gautama accepts him instantly. He states, "You have not swerved from the truth."
He identifies Arjavam, absolute unpretentious straightforwardness, as the true marker of spiritual eligibility, not who your parents were.
It's so beautiful. But then Gautama's pedagogical method, how he actually teaches him, is bizarre.
Oh, it's totally unorthodox.
Right. He doesn't sit Satyakama down and teach him the intricate chants of the Samaveda. He separates 400 of the weakest, most emaciated cows from his herd.
Right, the sickliest cows he has.
Hands them to Satyakama and orders him into the deep forest, telling him not to return until the herd has multiplied to 1,000.
It is a complete deconstruction of the academic model. Satyakama is forced into total isolation. He is stripped of texts, rituals, human discourse, everything.
His education is entirely elemental.
Yes. The Upanishad details how, over the years, he is instructed by the natural world itself. A bull, a fire, a swan, and a divo bird.
Animals and elements are his gurus.
Exactly. These elemental forces teach him that the four quarters of the earth, the boundless oceans, the sky, the vital breath, they are all simply manifestations of Brahman.
He learns to see the infinite reflected in his immediate natural environment.
And by the time he finally returns with 1,000 cows, his transformation is absolute. Gautama looks at him and says, "My son, your face shines like a knower of Brahman."
Okay, but I have to challenge the narrative progression here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
The text explicitly states that Satyakama achieved this luminous realization of Brahman out in the forest, taught by nature and his own quiet observation.
Right.
Yet, upon returning, he still insists that sage Gautama formally teach him. He says, "I desire that you too should teach me, for I have heard from the wise that the knowledge that the teacher imparts will alone lead to the supreme good."
He does say that, yeah.
So if he has already realized the ultimate truth from the swan and the fire, isn't returning to a human teacher a regression, why does he need this validation?
What's fascinating here is how Shankaracharya uses this exact tension to explain the epistemology of Advaita Vedanta.
Okay, how so?
Well, Satyakama had profound, life-altering subjective experiences in the forest. But subjective spiritual experience is notoriously unstable.
Because your mind can trick you.
Exactly. Without an objective philosophical framework, the human ego can easily co-opt a mystical experience. It can lead to subtle forms of spiritual arrogance or delusion.
I'm enlightened now, look at me.
Precisely. Satyakama possessed the humility to recognize that his internal realizations needed to be stress-tested. They needed to be validated against the Shruti.
The Shruti being the revealed scriptural wisdom.
Right, held by a grounded master. The guru provides the epistemological safety net that ensures the student hasn't simply invented a new, elaborate illusion in their own head.
Ah, I see. It prevents the ego from declaring itself enlightened in a vacuum.
Yes.
Listeners, notice the core lesson in the story of Satyakama Jabala, because this is our second vital listening prompt. Unflinching truthfulness is the highest and perhaps only real qualification for spiritual awakening.
Absolutely. And the Chandogya Upanishad deliberately juxtaposes Satyakama's radical humility with the exact opposite archetype in the very next section.
Oh, yeah. It explores the profound danger of academic knowledge untethered from self-awareness. And it does this through the story of Shvetaketu.
Shvetaketu is just the quintessential victim of intellectual hubris.
He really is the arrogant college kid coming home for Thanksgiving.
Exactly. His father, the great sage Uddalaka, sends him to study the Vedas at the age of 12. And Shvetaketu undergoes 12 years of rigorous, intensive academic conditioning.
He memorizes the chants, the rituals, the philosophical debates, all of it.
And he returns home at 24, deeply conceited, possessing an inflated sense of his own intellectual supremacy.
I mean, imagine spending over a decade building a towering identity out of academic degrees and esoteric knowledge, only for your father to casually pull out the single foundational Jenga block of your entire worldview.
It's brutal. Uddalaka sees the arrogance practically radiating off his son. And he asks him a single question.
Just one question.
He says, Shvetaketu, did you ask your teachers for that knowledge by which we hear the unhearable, by which we perceive the unperceivable, by which we know the unknowable?
It is a total epistemological trap.
Totally. Because Shvetaketu's entire education was based on accumulating facts about the knowable world.
Right, categorizing things.
Uddalaka is asking for the foundational knowledge that makes knowing itself possible. The cognitive dissonance just shatters Shvetaketu's arrogance.
He is forced to admit a catastrophic gap in his education. He realizes that an encyclopedic knowledge of the universe is completely useless if you do not understand the substance out of which the universe is made.
Exactly. So, completely deflated, he begs his father to teach him.
And Uddalaka begins by dismantling the concept of a created universe entirely. He states, "In the beginning there was existence, one only, without a second."
He systematically refutes the idea that existence could emerge from non-existence.
Right. But to explain how this singular, undivided being could possibly appear as a universe filled with billions of distinct, separate objects and entities, Uddalaka utilizes this famous metaphor of clay.
It's brilliant. He tells his son, if you know one lump of clay, you know all things made of clay.
Right.
The text argues that the differences between a clay pot, the clay plate, and a clay cup are merely modifications based upon words.
Modifications based on words. Meaning?
The Sanskrit term used is vacharambhanam vikaro namadhyam. The modification is only a verbal distinction, a name.
So if I shatter the clay pot, the concept of the pot ceases to exist, but the clay remains entirely unaffected.
Exactly.
The pot was never a fundamentally real entity. It was simply a temporary shape imposed onto the clay. The only enduring reality in that scenario is the clay itself.
And Shankaracharya relies heavily on this specific metaphor to explain the doctrine of Vivartavada.
Vivartavada, which is the theory of illusory appearance, right?
Right. The universe is not an actual transformation of Brahman in the way milk physically transforms into yogurt.
Right, because yogurt can't turn back into milk. It's fundamentally changed.
Exactly. If Brahman actually transformed into the universe, Brahman would be subject to change, decay, and death.
And Brahman is eternal and changeless.
Yes. So instead, the universe is an appearance of Brahman, just as the pot is merely an appearance of the clay. The underlying substance remains singular, immutable, and totally untouched by the endless changing forms of the cosmos.
Okay, but a clay pot is tangible. I can hold it. How does Uddalaka explain the fact that this ultimate substance, Brahman, is completely imperceptible to human senses?
Right, like why can't we see it?
Yeah, if everything is made of this one being, why can't we see it?
Uddalaka addresses this sensory limitation with a very practical experiment. He instructs Shvetaketu to place a lump of salt into a bowl of water and leave it overnight. When Shvetaketu returns the next morning, Uddalaka asks him to retrieve the salt. And of course, the physical lump has vanished. It's dissolved completely into the water.
Obviously.
Uddalaka then instructs him to sip the water from the surface, from the middle, and from the bottom. Every single drop is saturated with the taste of salt.
Wow. So the salt represents the subtle essence of reality.
Exactly. You cannot isolate it. You cannot point to it with a microscope or a telescope.
Yet it completely and utterly pervades the entire structure of the universe. Every atom, every thought, every physical body is saturated with this invisible underlying presence.
Which sets the stage for the most explosive realization in Vedic philosophy.
Yes.
Uddalaka has methodically broken down Shvetaketu's conditioned reality. He established the singular substance with the clay metaphor. He established its inviolable pervasiveness with the salt metaphor.
Having laid all that metaphysical groundwork, Uddalaka looks at his son and delivers the Mahavakya, the great saying.
The phrase that collapses the entire universe into a single point of consciousness.
Listeners, here's where it gets really interesting. Uddalaka says, that which is the subtle essence in that have all beings their existence. That is the truth. That is the self. And that, Shvetaketu, that art thou.
Tvam asi.
Tvam asi.
Let's examine the mechanics of those three words because it's so important. Tat translates to that.
Referring to the infinite, invisible, pervasive reality of Brahman that sustains the cosmos.
Right. And Tvam translates to thou, referring to the individual localized consciousness experiencing life.
And asi is the equal sign.
It is the equal sign. It is the assertion of absolute identity. Uddalaka is telling Shvetaketu that the conscious awareness looking out of his eyes is the exact same substance that births the stars and sustains the oceans.
It is the ultimate collapse of distance. The creator is not external to the created.
No.
The universe is simply experiencing itself from billions of localized vantage points.
That's exactly it.
Listeners, reflect deeply on this defining moment. This is your third listening prompt today. The dialogue of Uddalaka and Shvetaketu culminating in the Mahavakya, Tvam asi.
However, acknowledging Tvam asi as a cool philosophical concept is vastly different from living it as an experiential reality.
Oh, incredibly different.
And the Upanishad anticipates this disconnect. It recognizes that knowing you are infinite doesn't automatically stop you from suffering the anxieties of daily life.
I can read about non-duality all day, but I still get stressed in traffic.
Exactly. So to bridge this gap, the text provides a jarring, visceral analogy about the mechanics of bondage and liberation. And Shankaracharya breaks this down in intricate detail.
Okay, let's get into this. The text describes an ancient trial by ordeal.
Yes, a man is accused of theft and hauled before the authorities. To determine his guilt, he is forced to grasp a red-hot heated axe.
Wow, okay.
The Upanishad states that if the man is lying, if he actually committed the crime and attempts to mask it with falsehood, he covers his very soul in untruth.
Right, so his hand is severely burned, he suffers immensely, and he's condemned.
Conversely, if he is innocent and speaks the truth, he is shielded by the truth itself. He grasps the blazing iron, he is unharmed, and he walks away a free man.
On the surface, I mean, it sounds like primitive jurisprudence, like magic.
It does. But Shankaracharya elevates this into a masterclass on the metaphysics of karma and samsara.
How so?
In his commentary, the liar in this ordeal represents the individual operating under the deep psychological ignorance of duality.
Okay.
This is the person who fundamentally believes they are a separate, isolated ego, a fragile body operating in a hostile external universe.
But I want to push back on how that specifically generates suffering. How does merely believing you are an individual ego translate into getting burned by reality?
Right, it's a good question. If we connect this to the bigger picture of Advaita Vedanta, the mechanism is adhyasa, or superimposition.
Superposition.
When you believe you are a separate fragment, you inherently feel incomplete. This sense of incompletion breeds fear.
Fear of death, fear of lack, fear of insignificance.
Exactly. And fear demands action. You constantly strive to acquire things, protect things, and manipulate the world to secure your isolated existence.
Because you feel separate and vulnerable.
Yes. These fear-based actions generate friction, which the Vedic tradition calls karma.
Ah.
Karma is the sticky residue of egoic action that binds consciousness to the endless, suffering cycle of rebirth, known as samsara.
So the false belief in separation is what makes the heat of the axe, the inevitable friction of life, actually burn you?
Exactly. The ego acts as a magnet for suffering.
So by contrast, the truth teller who grasps the axe unharmed represents the individual who has truly realized Tvam asi.
Yes. They have completely dissolved the superimposition of the ego.
Because they know they are indistinguishable from the totality of existence, they have nothing to protect and nothing they lack.
They act without fear and without selfish desire. Therefore, they generate zero friction.
They can move through the exact same challenging, volatile material world as the ignorant person, but the heat of worldly suffering simply cannot adhere to them.
They are liberated while still alive. They achieve moksha.
They are completely insulated by their realization of non-duality.
They are. And to explain where this profound realization actually occurs, the 8th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad provides a stunning spatial metaphor.
The city of Brahman, right?
Yes, the Brahmapura. It introduces the concept of the city of Brahman, which is the physical human body.
Okay.
Within this city, there is a small, lotus-shaped dwelling, the human heart. And within the core of that heart, there is a microscopic space.
But the text is very careful to clarify that this isn't a biological, anatomical space, like a ventricle.
Right, no. It is the Chitakasha, the space of consciousness.
And Shankaracharya emphasizes that the Chitakasha contains the entirety of the macrocosm.
It does. The sun, the moon, the stars, the lightning, everything that exists externally is literally contained within this internal space of consciousness.
Which leads to what the Upanishad describes as the ultimate tragedy of the human condition.
It's a sad metaphor, really.
It is. The text asks us to imagine a vast field where an immeasurable treasure of gold is buried deep underground. Every day, people walk back and forth across this field,
Treading directly over the treasure.
completely oblivious to the wealth just inches beneath their feet. And the Upanishad states that we are those people.
We are.
We live every second of our lives carrying the infinite bliss and absolute reality of Brahman within our own Chitakasha, yet we wander blindly through the city of Brahman, completely unaware of our own nature.
We exhaust ourselves seeking fulfillment in external relationships, status, and material wealth.
Whoa.
Walking right over the buried gold of our own consciousness.
It is the tragedy of pravritti, the outward-turning mind.
We are blinded by Maya, the veiling power of illusion that obscures the internal reality and projects this external mirage.
But this raises a massive paradox for me.
What's that?
If the gold is already there, if we are inherently eternal, flawless, and completely identical to Brahman right at this very second, what is the actual utility of spiritual practice? Why did Satyakama spend years in the forest? Why do we chant Om? If I am already infinite, trying to achieve enlightenment seems redundant.
That is the most rigorous philosophical knot in Shankaracharya's commentary. And his answer is utterly precise. You're absolutely correct. We do not practice to attain Brahman.
Because you can't attain what you already are.
Exactly. You cannot travel toward a destination you already occupy. Spiritual practice, meditation, the chanting of Om, these are not mechanisms of construction.
They don't build anything new.
No, they are mechanisms of destruction.
They dissolve the superimposition.
Precisely. They're designed to destroy avidya, which is ignorance. When you sweep the dirt off the buried gold, you haven't created the gold.
You've merely removed the obstruction that prevented you from seeing it.
Yes. Meditation doesn't forge a new enlightened state. It steadily dismantles the false, limiting architecture of the ego until only the underlying, pre-existing reality of Brahman remains.
It is a radical shift from a paradigm of achievement to a paradigm of unlearning.
Very much so.
So, as we pull these vast conceptual threads together, we have to ground this in your reality, listening to this today. Why does the Chandogya Upanishad matter to you?
Well, its modern resonance lies in its absolute refusal to let you define yourself by your limitations.
Exactly. It demands that you recognize that your deepest identity is not your biological age, your accumulated anxieties, your career trajectory, or that relentless narrative voice in your head.
Those are simply temporary modifications, like the names given to different shapes of clay.
Right. Beneath all that superficial form, you are inextricably bound to the infinite substance of the cosmos.
And Shankaracharya's rigorous commentary serves as a constant reminder that this is an experiential truth, not just a mere intellectual comfort.
Right. Through steady, disciplined inquiry into the nature of the mind, and by continually tuning your awareness to the foundational frequency of reality, the blindfold of separation can actually be removed.
The illusion of duality collapses, leading directly to the ultimate freedom of moksha.
Our primary takeaway for you today, the core revelation we want you to carry into your week, is the beating heart of this entire text. You are that.
You are the infinite self, seamlessly one with Brahman.
It is a realization that can instantly shatter lifetimes of conditioning.
It really can.
And to leave you with a final provocative thought experiment to test this out the next time you stand in front of a mirror, recall the Upanishad's teaching about the person in the eye.
Oh, I love this one.
The reflection staring back at you is not merely an assemblage of biological data. It is the exact same localized consciousness that sustains the oceans and burns within the stars, looking back at itself through the temporary aperture of your specific life.
When you speak the word I, who or what is really speaking?
That inquiry is the threshold to the infinite. We want to thank you for joining us on this immense philosophical journey today. Please make sure to subscribe to Simplified Awakening, like this deep dive, and share your own reflections in the comments. Who did you recognize in the mirror?
We really want to read those.
We have several upcoming deep dives planned covering other principal Upanishads, where we will continue to explore the staggering depths of non-duality through Shankaracharya's brilliant analytical framework. Until next time, keep interrogating the nature of your own reality.